In the following chapter, we will discuss another method of the attack, developing the bishop to g5. So, if white develops the bishop on g5, usually the knight on f6 is pinned. So, black has less defensive resources, because it is rather difficult to get rid of the pin. I've selected several of the most spectacular examples, and we will start with the game against Zoltan Almasi, very strong grandmaster from Hungary. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, queen e2, b5, bishop b3, bishop c5. Again, the best setup by my opponent. c3, d6, d3, and here black castles to the king side immediately, and this move is a mistake. As I've told in the previous game against Gokhale, the best move for black is to play h6 now, preventing the move bishop g5. Then the position is about equal. But this move is a mistake, because now white plays bishop g5. And as you see, the knight f6 is pinned. And the only way for black to get rid of this pin is to play h6, bishop h4, and g5. This will be weakening the position. Another way is to play bishop e6, then try to exchange on b3 and play queen e7 and then queen e6, also getting rid of this pin. But it is very difficult to achieve now. And what is the plan of white? The normal plan after knight f6 is pinned is to play knight d2, knight f1, knight e3, and threatening knight d5, or knight g4 after the move h3. So this is one option. Another option is after g5 is to play h3, knight h2, threatening the move queen e3, and also threatening the move knight h2, g4. So bishop e6. This is the normal move. And now the move knight b d2. Playing bishop d5 immediately is not so clear, because after exchanges the pawn structure of black is all damaged. Then he can attack the central pawn d5 with unclear position. And why in this position I don't play bishop c2? This move is also possible. But after knight bd2, I have the idea that if black takes on b3 here, then after a b3 the a line will be open, and then white can continue playing positional chess, putting the pressure on the pawn a6 here. Also knight b3 here is possible with a small advantage for white. But we already know that if black gets the chance to exchange the bishop on b3, he must do it immediately without waiting for more time. So clearly in this position black was obliged to take on b3. In the game he played queen e7, and this move we can say is a decisive mistake. Even it was better to play h6, bishop h4. We will see it later in another game. So after queen e7, white has a very strong move, bishop d5. So if now black exchanges on d5, as it happened in the game, then the square e4 will be available for the knight d2. Relatively best move for black now is bishop d7, but then white continues knight h4, rook a b8 is necessary, because after h6 white can play knight g6, winning the exchange. Then after queen f5, knight f5, queen d8, queen f3, white has huge advantage. But still it was better than in the game, because after taking on d5, white gets a winning position quite easily. E d5, knight b8, knight e4, knight b d7, and now very strong move, knight h4. So you see that black cannot get rid of the pin without material losses. Also, white wants to play queen f3, and the knight from h4 is going to f5 to participate in the attack. g6 now is possible, but it doesn't solve the problems either, because after queen f3, king g7, white has a choice of different continuations. One of them is to play knight f5 immediately. Then after g5, queen f5, it is difficult to stop the idea bishop h4, then queen g5 and knight f6, simply winning the pawn. Also after move bishop h4, maybe g4 is possible. This is possibility number one. After king g7, it is also to play queen g3. So now knight e4 loses the exchange. So king h8 is the only move. Then knight f6, and the similar sacrifice on the square f5 is possible. G5, queen h4. The only move not losing the queen is bishop f2, then queen f2, rook g8, e4 loses after castle, queen e5, d4. After rook g8, white wins the exchange. Queen f5, if rook g6, then castle, king g7, rook f2, and then on the next move rook a f1, and the suffering knight on f6 will be lost. So as you see that starting from move 9, still black cannot escape from this deadly pin. So rook g5, queen g5, rook g8, queen d2, e4, now queen e3, rook g2, and castle. So white has an extra exchange and should win. In the game, black played h6, but now the knight on f5 enters the play with a decisive effect. Queen d8, bishop h4, king h7, and now queen f3. You see now that 4 white pieces are participating in the attack, while only 3 black pieces, like queen d8, knight d7, and knight f6, are participating in defense. So how to evaluate who is better, who has more chances to win in the attack? Who has the advantage in the number of pieces? Because 4 attacking pieces against 3 defenses, so it means that white attack is decisive. If number of the attacking pieces is smaller than the number of the defensive pieces, then most of all the attacking side does not have chances to succeed. And if the number of the attacking and defending pieces is equal, then other factors are important, so you should consider other things to come to a correct evaluation. So here in this position, black played rook h8, g5 is losing after queen h3, king g8, knight g5 followed by queen h6, and after king g6, so black is mated. After rook g8, there is a win using knight sacrifice on h6. Knight h6, king h6, queen h3 is an important intermediate move, and black cannot avoid the mate or the loss of the queen on d8. For example, king g6, knight g3, and no defense against the move queen f5 and bishop g5 mate. So in the game it was played rook h8 with the idea to play king g8 and then g5 to close this diagonal to eliminate the pin. But now the pawn g2 also enters the attack with a decisive effect. If now g5, knight h6 is winning in all lines. For example, king h6, bishop g5, king g7, and h4, and black cannot do anything to prevent the pawn h4 going to h6. So if king g6, then queen a5, king g7, h4 with the same idea. After g h4, we play g5, and after rook g8, knight f5, rook g6, white also wins. In the game, black played king g8, then the sacrifice to g7 comes, king g7, and now rook g1. Quite similar to the examples from the chapter with the long castle attack. Here white is using the same method, playing g4, rook g1, also opening g line with attack. So it is not possible to stop g5. After rook g8, white simply plays king e2, improving the position first and moving away the king from the possible check on f2, and also rook a1 is now coordinating with the rook g1, so white wins. In the game it was played knight e4, after bishop d8, bishop f2, king e2, bishop g1, white simply wins too many pawns, and several moves later black resigned. So I think this game is one of the most spectacular examples how white should play, pinning the knight on f6.